As a psychologist by education, this topic is especially close to my heart, and I'm sure to yours too. How many people in the room have children or family members under the age of 18 that are actually using AI today? And how many of you are worried about their mental health? We all are, aren't we? So you are in the right place, as we are here to discuss how the use of AI can affect their mental health in this day and age. Because children's mental health in an age of rapid AI advancement is an extremely sensitive topic, and the urgency is real. Allow me to share with you some numbers that will reflect this urgency. Globally, 1 in 8 people experience a mental health condition. In the GCC, nearly 80% go undiagnosed. And among children, some studies show over 40% of them exhibit depressive symptoms. Also, there is troubling rise in self-harm and suicide incidents linked to AI interactions, specifically among children. In some reported cases, conversations with AI chatbots have contributed to child suicide, reflecting the deep psychological impact and misplaced trust people can form with these systems. The number one AI safety issues involving children today is child sexual abuse material. In 2010, there were about 100,000 reports. In 2023, the number had surged to 36.2 million. The scale is staggering, and it shows how fast technology's darker side can grow when safety doesn't keep up with it. And this data has been shared by Colonel Dana Ahmed al-Marzouqi. On a more positive note, we have seen a rapid growth in the AI and healthcare market in the UAE, which is nearly 35%. That growth will open door to opportunities such as early intervention and support tools that we will be talking about today. And it's important for us to discuss trust, data, safety, and emotional dependency when we are adopting these AI solutions, which we will be exploring today with our panelists. So the first part of the conversation, we want to understand that reality and the current impact and evidence that we are already seeing in this region. I'd like to start with you, Naira. Can you help us unpack what's really happening behind the algorithms that shape so much of children's online experiences?
Thank you so much, Hannah. I really appreciate it. I guess we're starting off with a bang. Like the statistics you've given us are quite chilling, and I hope y'all are seeing this in your online environments as well. So to repeat, what do parents and educators need to understand when it comes to these algorithms? What's really happening under the hood, right?
Exactly.
So I'll give you a bit about my background so the audience understands where I'm coming from and then answer the question if that's okay. So I'm coming from more of a software engineering and machine learning background. I graduated in 2016 with a thesis in cybersecurity and AI, so understanding the common vulnerabilities and the exploits and helping classify them with machine learning classification algorithms, right? So I've been looking at the ethics and safety space since maybe 2021, looking into algorithmic bias with the documentary Coded Bias on Netflix. You can go and check that out. Weapons of Math Destruction, excellent book, Invisible Women. And this tells us about how the tech has evolved, the tech that we're using today, how it's evolved to its current state, right? 10 years ago, it might have been a bit harder to connect the dots, but if you drill it down to the basics, the foundations, tech companies actually have incompatible incentives and clear conflict of interest between the fiduciary responsibility to the stakeholders and responsibility to public good, right, and PR. Being 100% transparent will definitely affect the bottom line and profitability. Minority groups are often exploited to create CSAM, and we need to have a think about what is the enforced AI policy by the regulation as well as the tech companies to address this issue, right? So guidelines, when principles, code of ethics can only get us so far, what can we do to have an actual impact and action drill down to the interactions we're having on a day-to-day basis, right? Last thing I want to mention, like what you said about suicides and deaths. We cannot really afford to have child deaths now due to these preventable issues, and having public apologies in front of Congress when it's called out, right? Lastly, not everyone has access to a laptop or smartphone. What are the pathways we're now developing to have AI as an equalizer for the people who need it the most? So I hope this helps frame some of the discussion today.
Yes, definitely. Thank you so much. I'd like to bring Khawla into this conversation. First, share with us what Takalam does, but also from Takalam's vantage point, working with young people and the families in the UAE and the broader region. How is technology shaping the emotional development and social well-being of children and teenagers today?
Thank you. First of all, good morning to everyone. Thank you for having me. And we're very proud to be the knowledge partner of this panel today. Takalam, which is the Arabic word for talk, started basically to increase accessibility to mental health care and reduce the cultural stigma that comes with it. So it's a mental well-being platform. Through the application that we have both in Arabic and English, we provide a set of tools and resources, including connecting with over 80 licensed psychologists who are available online to be conducting one-to-one sessions with individuals, as well as tools and resources utilizing AI and a library of content that they can use on that will help them on daily basis. We've been supported by startAD. DOH, since the day we started, DOH Tech Hub has been our biggest supporter as well. Shout out to Abdullah, who's here today. And being in such an ecosystem in the UAE has been really a launch pad and catalyst to enhance healthcare and well-being in the AI space. So going back to your question, how can we support children and parents? And I want to focus on parents here, as I am a parent of this beautiful 9-year-old here, Mira, with us today.
Hi, Mira.
I want to learn ways that I am capable and equipped with the right tools and resources to support Mira in the first place, right? So that means what resources are available there for me to learn how to support my daughter's well-being, how to meet her where she is. Children today are on their phones. Whether we like it or not, this is where we should meet them. We should define vocabulary that they use to express themselves. For example, I ask Mira, how was your day today? She tells me, well, 6, 7. What does that mean? You know, like, was that good or bad?
I have to take some time to understand what.
Honestly, like, as silly as it sounds, but this is how they express themselves. And we have to learn what, vocabulary they use, how to help them communicate how they feel and support them on that basis as we go.
Definitely. And how do you feel it is shaping their emotional development? Is it making them more aware? Is it changing the way they behave with other humans?
I mean, if we look at it, obviously, like, using technology and AI has a double-edged sword, right? So
yes.
How it has its benefits and its disadvantages. If we're using it in things to, like I said, communicate and learn how to express your emotions. For example, we have Ayla, that is a multi-agent model that is culturally rooted. We built Ayla to be the AI well-being companion that talks to individuals based on how they feel, where they're coming from. So instead of people like the chilling numbers that you mentioned earlier, using ChatGPT and other models that are not supervised, are not built for such use cases. So we built Ayla in a way to ensure that there is a safe space that does not only answer to what they want, like a person wants to hear and validates how they're feeling, but challenge them in a way to provoke the thought process using CBT, giving them resources. However, this alone cannot be utilized without the supervision and the intervention of the human element into the whole this. So, yes, it is shaping, how they feel and how they express their emotion, how they interact in the world. But if it's used in the right way with ethical foundation, I think it can be extremely useful.
Thank you so much. And Mariam, can you please add from an early childhood development perspective, which means up until the age of 8, where children first learn and grow and interact with the world, what early signals or evidence are you seeing about AI's influence in the early childhood space?
Thank you for that question. From the Early Childhood Authority's point of view, of course, we are predominantly looking at the health and safety and wellness across multiple let's say sectors: health and nutrition, child protection, family support, and early care and education, particularly within prenatal to the age of 8. So what we've observed so far in our research, and this is a recent research done with 10,000 families based in Abu Dhabi, where we found that children, around 86% of young children spend time in digital activities outside of school. And further to that, a lot of that you can assume is obviously within the 5 to 8 year range. However, another statistic to kind of pair with that is the fact that parents, around 70% of parents, feel that the time that their children spend is completely normal, and they don't see it as a problem, let's say. So I think what that tells us as policymakers and those in the space is that there may potentially be a gap in understanding and awareness of what quality versus quantity is in terms of the digital intake of content for children. Another point that I would like to mention is, of course, we look at evidence-based and research-based practices, and what we found is that, under the age of 2, there should be no screens, is what we found, but between the age of 2 and 5, that's about 1 hour a day. At most, and then once you're between 5 and 8, you can increase that to 2 hours a day. So that just further proves that, there is a lot to do in terms of awareness, bringing the parents to the table, having those conversations, and ensuring that they are the first point of contact for their child to be consuming this information and the digital content. So we really look at that. We look at that dialogue with parents, with the family community, with the caregiver community, and to create things that are very well rooted in the culture and the daily routines that we've observed. Of course, it's quite complex to kind of dig into that space.
Yes.
But I think further to what we've just observed, knowing that children are online, there isn't much we can do in terms of restricting that. I don't think what our aim is to restrict, but rather to mitigate, to ensure that they receive the best that these technologies have to offer in moderation, so that they can get the best outputs without sacrificing on the risks that can occur.
It's fascinating how much we undermine that children at a very early age actually absorb everything around them, and these are the most important years of their development. And I think that I've seen some parents now questioning themselves, how many hours am I allowing my children to be on screen? Thank you so much, Mariam. And Olivier, your work focuses on developing models that allow machines to adapt to their users. Can you share how that works in practice, and what kind of benefits or risks it might bring for our children?
Thank you very much for having me. The way I see the world is that the world of us humans can be summarized with 2 words. Mm-hmm. Physicians smoke.
Okay, elaborate, please.
Meaning that you can explain to people what to do, what not to do, have all the knowledge in the world. Mm. You might end up doing things that are not good for yourself. Physicians smoke. This is why transparency is necessary, but never sufficient. Mm-hmm. So let's look at this the other way around. Is it possible to empower machines to understand the uniqueness of each of us? The uniqueness of a little girl that can rap or loves crepes. The uniqueness of a little boy who cannot move because he's quadriplegic, or someone else that has attention deficit disorders. the way we train models is not just with words, images, and audio, the way a lot of us consider artificial intelligence these days with all the models that we're using on a daily basis. We train them with brainwaves, facial expression, voice intonation, eye movements, touch, heartbeat, respiration. The goal is to train these models with the same information that our brains are processing on a daily basis. This way, the machine can understand what a person can do or cannot do, and how different the same person can be from a morning to an evening. In a lot of organizations, including schools, kids are assessed through cognitive and psychology tests. Those can be informative, but there is more than 50 years of scientific literature, peer-reviewed scientific literature, that shows the lack of predictability or reproducibility. And I think the first thing we must do with responsible artificial intelligence is to leverage the most advanced science, the most advanced technology, and not tools that we already know are fair, are not good enough. So back to machines adapting to us. What does that mean? It means that when it comes to content, when it comes to classes, when it comes to training, upskilling later in life, the machine can sense whether some people are more on the audio side, on the visual side, or sometimes they need to switch because their minds are wandering.
Yes.
And also, ultimately, and this is more a dream of mine, is really to have machines that allow kids to mind wander, to be bored. And that's something that I would love to advance. I was lucky enough when I was a kid to be bored, for my parents not to care what I was doing when they were having dinners with their friends. Today we do everything in a child-centric way, which I think is admirable from a moral point of view. But there are so many benefits of having to just do something with yourself because the machine is not providing it. And I think that is also something that we should empower the machines to do, is at some point to decide not to provide content, not to stimulate, and say, hey kid, get bored.
Yes. So real-time, human-centered, let's say, advice or solutions. But I will come back to you on that point for sure. So what we have discussed until now is, and we have established in our conversation, is that AI is a double-edged sword today. And on one hand, it offers these incredible opportunities, such as detecting early signs of depression or providing emotional support. On the other hand, there are risks such as addiction, manipulation, but even replacing vital human connection. And Mariam, I'm going to dive into that human connection part, especially that the #1 use case for Gen AI in 2025 is therapy and companionship. So how do you see this balance playing out in real life in early childhood development? How are we going to ensure the human connection is still there, but at the same time they're getting it from somewhere else?
Yeah, I think just it being the first use case shows you that there is in fact a demand for it, a market demand for companionship and connection. And I think that's quite natural, especially in the early years when a child's brain is forming the connection and the pathways for creating connection and communication. But what we ultimately want to see is that they form those connections with their parents, with their caregivers, with their elders, with their family and community. In Abu Dhabi, our identity is very rooted in family and that relationship and dialogue with our parents and elders. And that's something we would want to see reflected in any of the tools or AI chatbots, companions, toys, what have you, that our children are being exposed to. But further to that, I think, again, double-edged sword is really accurate, because we have seen some successes as well in terms of how these AI companions can support children, shy children, anxious children, neurodivergent children, children of determination, with therapeutics, with practicing communication in a safe and in confidence. But what we want to see as well is that it's not to substitute for the human connection, which is required further development. So we hope to see that's almost like it's complementing their learning journey, providing them with, of course, there's instant responses, gratification. But I think one thing we definitely cannot forget is that AI is good at imitating empathy, but it doesn't feel empathy. And so for a child learning that, they should be learning it through dialogue and discussion with parents and with other humans, essentially. So that's something we truly look at, and we hope it will evolve for the best.
We hope so too. Khawla, I can see you're writing a lot of notes. Would you like to add anything specifically on the human connection topic?
Yeah, I mean, I can echo everything Mariam said, and from a cultural perspective, the way we grew up is really community-centric. We community depended on each other, had that emotional support and connection. We were playing in the streets the whole time, and our parents trying to bring us back. Now we're trying to push our kids
come back
out.
home.
Yeah, so having that, lifestyle and this big change really influenced the way our children are going to grow up right now. So, from that perspective is really important to go back to the culture and the community support system, which we advocate a lot through Takalam by bringing communities together, launching support groups for parents and others to get that emotional connection.
So it's embedded in your solution, trying to give them the right balance of advice, but at the same time ensuring that they still understand what community and bringing the community, the family together.
Absolutely. And with empathy, the empathy point, I mean, like Mariam said, technology actually is there as an enabler, right? It's there to support the human rather than replace what they do. Empathy still, we need that human connection to offer that empathetic approach. However, together with the technology can be really a strong force that can enable things on a much higher scale and deliver more effective solutions.
Yes, thank you. Before I move to Naira, Olivier, this is where I want to challenge you. So, yes, we understand that the machine now can really sense and analyze the data it's receiving, including empathy. But at the end of the day, physically, visually, it is a machine. And do you think this will affect the individuals, youth, and children, and break that human connection that we have since we are born?
The interesting thing is we tend to forget that those machines are so far still coded by humans, at least partially, trained on human data or artificial data that is generated from human data. Then they become products that are used by humans, and those products learn from the interactions with human beings, which means that at the end of the day, generative AI is just a mirror of ourselves as individuals and as society. And there is a silent epidemic of loneliness and of mental health. Hence, you would see the figures that you shared about the main usage of artificial intelligence.
Yes.
Also, they've been trained on Western data for the great majority. And part of the problem also is those models are supposed to do everything. I don't expect my butcher to make my bread. Yet, we expect some models that have been trained on some data to basically help or assist everybody. And there is something that is utterly wrong about that. And this is why the initiatives by the Early Childhood Authority, the cultural anchoring, what Takalam is doing by not only leveraging the cutting-edge technology, but anchoring it again with regional data, with a language, is so important. There is so much in language that we forget.
Yes, that's
not
very
only
important.
the words themselves, but the metaphors.
Yes.
And the metaphors, most of them are related to our body. And the way we relate to our body changes from one city to another somewhere in the world.
100%.
All of these things, and which brings me to the embodiment of what this technology can bring to people. There is a lot of emphasis on empathy. It's still very hard for me to be at ease with the idea that we're going to teach empathy to people, teaching them morals, teaching them respect, teaching them all those things that are proxies, or maybe not proxies, but anchors and foundations for an empathic behavior is more something that sits well with me. The fact that people judge a machine as empathic because the machine is just basically telling us what we want to hear. And the fact that as human beings we relate more to people who are mimicking our behavior, whether we're talking about waiters that just adopt the pace of your voice, they get more tips. People who speak and walk like you feel better with them, you rate them better. It's the same with machines, and machines have been trained on this data. They know that. At the end of the day, it's about the embodiment and what matters the most. And this is why I just accepted a job at the Mohammed bin Zayed University of Artificial Intelligence in the human-computer interaction department chaired by the brilliant Professor Elizabeth Churchill, someone who understands that human AI collaboration, cooperation is the core of what we need to teach and learn today. We need to learn to dance with these machines. And I use the term dance because it requires coordination.
A lot of coordination.
And it requires also to anticipate what is coming up.
Oh,
and this is very hard.
That's true. Yeah. Would you like to add anything? Or shall we ask you to put the policy maker's hat now, Naira? Yes. So if I'm asking you to put the policymaker's hat and to share with me what would keep you awake at night when you think about AI entering children's lives, and what actually excites you or makes you hopeful about that.
So again, a bit about the background I'm coming from. I'm coming from AI Safety UAE, which is working on this shared understanding, having an empathy for civil society, the people who are using these technologies, shared understanding as well as responsibility between the policymakers, people in governance, risk and compliance, people in tech who are actually building and using the technology, and civil society, right? So everyone has a stake in this. So what keeps policymakers up at night? Now, I'm not a policymaker, but I sure hope this keeps them up at night. It definitely keeps me up at night. So we can compare and contrast AI education policies with China and the UAE. UAE has recently adopted K-12 AI education. And to highlight a quote from China's top tech official, Ding Shuixiang, who put it quite bluntly at Davos in January 2025, he said, if the braking system isn't under control, you can't step on the accelerator with confidence, right? For Chinese leaders, safety isn't a constraint. This is a prerequisite. So China is leading globally in AI safety. Like, I know the conversation is all about AI, but AI safety specifically, China is a leader. So this is central to their 15-year plan. Now, the UAE, if we compare the UAE's approach to AI in education and China, I think we are not talking about the same league here, because they are looking at AI safety as a prerequisite before adding it into education. Now, while we have gone to adopt it in K-12 education, there is a big gap when it comes to the safety and governance frameworks for this to be rolled out responsibly, right? So I definitely hope that's top of mind for our policymakers. And second is about digital literacy and AI literacy. Now, while we've adopted it in the education, it is crucial that we have this literacy for the ecosystem surrounding the children. So that can be the friends, the parents, the teachers, and it needs to definitely be child first, right? So while ChatGPT is widely used, now we have a need for literacy programs and workshops for this ecosystem, right? There are concerns of copyright, like lawsuits against Meta for copyrighted books, WhatsApp's AI chatbot sharing users' contact details, which are intensifying the risks of integrating AI in production. And lastly, rampant accommodation of AI in education now poses the risk of exacerbating issues of equity now arising from unequal access to technology.
Yeah, and that's why basically the program AI for Good is all about inclusivity and having AI accessible to vulnerable groups. And that's the main focus of the program. But what makes you hopeful? I mean, does China make you hopeful? And this is something we can mimic. What makes you hopeful?
Let me weigh in on that. Earlier this year, I was at the Governance of Emerging Technology conference in May that happened at St. Regis, Saadiyat Island. And I love that it brought together the UAE Public Prosecution, the Advanced Technology Research Council, and all the different departments from education, people working with child protection, to talk about the status quo as well as what they're currently doing with AI, right? So the numbers that Hannah mentioned from Lieutenant Colonel Dana about now them having 36 million cases to deal with, right? So those are global numbers they're talking about. And now they have to incorporate AI to automate some of this work. So how are they able to quickly filter through these cases and understand what needs their urgent attention at this point? So I really like that there's very positive initiation from the leadership to work with the tech implementation partners as well as the ecosystem partners to make sure we're building something that is safe, secure, and beneficial for us all.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Khawla, you mentioned at the beginning of our conversation for AI to be effective, it also needs to be culturally and regionally appropriate. And for someone who's building a solution for the region, what are the cultural or linguistic factors do you take into consideration when you're building your solution? And what do you think is often overlooked in other solutions?
I mean, like I said earlier, culture should be at the center of any solution that we build for a specific community, right? So having cultural adaptability is very important because the way we express ourselves as a community is different in each part of the world. So from a UAE perspective, we lean a lot, like I said, on the community. We lean a lot on our parents, on our cousins, on our siblings. So having that all built into a solution that caters understanding all these nuances and speaking not only the language, the little behaviors and traditions that we have, and integrating it within the solution to make it very relevant, right?
Yes.
So that all happens. Obviously, we build solutions from the ground, from the culture, and build on it by bringing, because a lot of times you have these universal or global solutions trying to integrate or enter a certain market.
Yes.
That will not work because, again, it's not a one solution fits all. You need to be aware of a lot of things to make it work, adaptability and adoption, customizing it to the culture. Like, for example, with my dear friend here, Olivier, we're going to work together on integrating his solutions through Takalam to cater it to what, again, our community reflects on, our community needs. Hand gestures are different here than any other part of the world, you know?
Yes.
There is a lot of cues in the facial expressions. So you need all of these data and local data to really help in building a solution that will work here, not anywhere else.
Yes.
And I'd like to call out on everyone to collaborate. We're working all towards the same noble, vision and mission. So we can only get to where we want to go if we collaborate together and work together as a community, from the amazing builders we have here to the authorities, to the parents, to the community. All of us, we work together to build the solutions that will work for us as a community.
Yes. Would you like to add anything?
One thing that is important is the technology that I'm bringing on its own is useless if I don't collaborate with local scientists, with people who understand the culture the way I do not. I bring a technical and scientific background and a solution that was trained on French, US people.
Yes.
And here, it's bringing the technology, but working with local scientists, with psychologists, with anthropologists, ethnologists, in order to understand what makes every interaction unique. And I think this is also what makes the training of kids in this country different compared to other countries that early on want to teach AI between quotes. It's not about teaching how to prompt. It's learning for kids to learn to grow in an environment where dancing with AI, with technology, is going to be key. And you learn that from philosophers, you learn that from scientists, but also from anthropologists, technologists, etc. You need all those areas to collaborate together in order to make sure that you got solutions that are tailored for the people, by people, for the people.
Yes, definitely. And Mariam Early Childhood Authority also works with a lot of startups, and you are always exploring solutions. So how can you, or how do you ensure that these AI solutions are culturally sensitive and tailored to our region?
Yeah, so as part of the Early Childhood Authority's efforts to do this, we have a flagship program called the Enjazi Startup Program. You may have heard of it. It's now in its 5th year, and inshallah we'll be working very closely with Hub 71 and integrating within their larger company builder program. And I think what we truly set out to do is to ensure that the local context and local market need was at the heart of our decision to invite companies from all over the world. So the program and how it works, it's quite literally a localization program. So supporting amazing companies, growth stage companies all over the world that are doing, have amazing solutions on problems across everything from health to education to cybersecurity, and attracting them to Abu Dhabi to solve the needs of our beneficiaries in our market on our behalf. And how we support them is through equity-free grants that support pilot opportunities, proof of concept opportunities, and also pairing them with those partners, both local partners, both public and private, that can provide them that foot in the market. So insofar, what really stood out to us in that experience was that localization meant something different for every company. So for a healthcare company, it's truly understanding, what would it take to even operate, quite literally in the market in terms of licensing and registrations, but also the clinical trials needed and so on. For an education company, it's very much getting opportunity to enter schools, enter the nursery, speak to parents, and start to engage with them to create content that's tailored to our region and our culture. As an organization, we pride ourselves in having the child at the center of everything we do, but that just speaks towards how important design thinking, product thinking, and empathy is in everything we design, from our policies to the laws and regulations and initiatives that we launch. Just an example of this is in one of our projects, we are working towards creating a conversational AI for parenting. And of course, you can say these LLMs exist and they're doing great things, ChatGPT and so forth. But what truly differentiates this product, hopefully, in its success in the market, is going to be what it gives a parent, an Emirati parent with very specific needs, and providing a response that feels like they're speaking to the relative.
Yes.
So how do we bring that depth of information? And that information does exist. Data and information and content has been collected over years. It's our job to curate that content, to ensure that the base and foundational content being used is ECA approved, DOH approved, has the correct information when it comes to sensitive topics around teaching and parenting their child in styles that match our culture and identity, really driving them towards collectivism and family cohesion as opposed to isolation and individualism. So these are just things that we think about. But of course, collaboration is really at the heart of this. And just earlier this year, during the World Government Summit, we had signed a pact with 9 tech companies, ranging from Snapchat to Google to and other government partners, to ensure that we build together what it takes to create a safe environment, a digital safe environment for children.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We're a little bit out of time, so I'll ask Naira one question. We did have a Q&A session, but we won't have time. But I highly encourage you during the breakfast and networking to approach our panelists and ask them the questions directly. But I'd like to wrap up with you, Naira, specifically on safeguarding. Yeah. What is one concrete safeguard or design principle every AI product should have that is specifically interacting with children?
Right. I really appreciate Mariam's approach here to keep the child at the center of all things. There's something by Professor Rachel Thomas, who taught practical data ethics, about the people who have an intuitive understanding of the problem, in our case, children. They already know what to do, right? So as people in power, like the people who have an understanding of the problem often are heard the least, have the least power in the room. Like, we don't have a child here on the panel to have these important discussions with us, right? So what we can do as people in power is make sure that they have meaningful participation. So we have design labs, design thinkings, these packs, to make sure they are included, their voices are included in the design and the rollout. And the second is actionable recourse. When things go wrong, there's a timely way to get things resolved, right? That's not stuck in some bureaucratic process. They understand with clarity and transparency, this is how the issue is solved. Now, in terms of design principles, I think right now we're seeing children using AI services to talk about their feelings, get help when they're not seeing it from the environment around them, right? So there should be a clear, simple warning before they start, just like with cigarettes or with soda cans, right? So on a soda can, you might see a warning like drinking sugary drinks causes obesity, diabetes, tooth decay. These are child-safe warning labels. So similarly, AI tools can have kid-friendly warnings to let kids understand the risks and help them make the smart choices, right? We don't want to ban any helpful AI services. We just want to ensure that we're building it and using it safely. So the parents, teachers, tech makers, and communities can all work together to make this happen.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So one thing that has become incredibly clear from our conversation today is that no matter how advanced AI becomes, the role of parents, caregivers, educators, policymaker is absolutely crucial. And AI can support, teach, and even comfort, but it cannot currently model empathy, values, or human connection like the way adults, us, can do. So the responsibility still sits firmly with us. That's for sure. And we can't do that unless we educate ourselves. Coming back to Olivier's point at the beginning, we really have to also educate ourselves. And we have to understand the technology, we have to understand its benefits, its limitations, and as well as its risks. And I hope that this conversation was an eye-opener for you all. Thank you so much for joining us. In the next half an hour, so exactly until 11:35, we'll be back to start on the second section of the day, which are the pitches. We would love to see what the new generation has built to make the world a better place. So thank you for joining us.